All right, good morning. A little bit of coffee time here. Today's video is this is Monday morning. We just finished watching the Pocono races and also the semi championship for the SRX racing series. This isn't going to be something that's new to me as far as being able to notice our professional sports and how vindictive they are to the viewers. But today's report or today's announcement from NASCAR to disqualify Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch, first and second place finishers of Pocono, because of the front fairings of the cars having additional material added to them. Now, I haven't religiously been watching NASCAR over the last 15 years because I looked at it when NASCAR had multiple car teams and you had the same champion for 5 years, for 5 championship years, and then the individuals within those teams getting special treatment, let's call it that, to the point where they're even in last place, go into the pits, and because of the timing of when they come out of the pit box or cross the pit line, they go from dead last to winning the race without ever having to take a lap around the track. Okay. Now, our announcer is Daryl Waltrip. Boogity boogity boogity. How he likes to start out the race. In interviews that he has done multiple different times over the years, including interviews with like Richard Petty, pretty much any old time NASCAR driver, they said basically, if you're not cheating, you're not winning. Okay, so since the 1960s, the first place cars have not been disqualified. All right, now if we go back a few years, about 10 years ago, if you guys remember, the Lowell's team, their fifth year championship, they started out the season, the very first race is that they went through tech inspection. They found out that the rear windshield of the car was altered from when the car was pre-inspected by NASCAR. The consequences for that was that the team manager was banned for the first four races of the season, and that their points didn't really go for much. But yet they still won their fifth championship year. Out of all those years, all those racing championships and races of that season, how do you go for four races that do not count for any points whatsoever and still win the championship? Everything talking about going to the playoffs, that you had to have so many points just to get into the top 10 of where your points would count for winning. All right. This is what has driven major NASCAR enthusiasts away from NASCAR. The same thing is happening in Major League Baseball, National Football League. Okay, if you need a comparison, look at Tom Brady. How many different championships do you need to watch before you see that the referees are calling games or calling plays in favor of somebody, or a game that's completely lopsided to where a team is much better than the other, but in the fourth quarter, oh my God, they come back 24 points later to win the Super Bowl. All right, it's fixed. I don't care who you are. Um, the boards, the directors, the associations for professional sports, it is fixed to draw in the most amount of viewership, whether it be live in the stands or on syndicated TV or pay-per-view, to bring in the most attention. It's the drama that's created to bring in the attention. Now, it says coffee time, so we're kind of taking our sweet morning or sweet time this morning. It really has to do with bringing the fans in. Every single track, every single organization that depends on spectators to promote and support the tracks will do anything they can to get more people in, whether that's advertising or drama. Now, when I say drama, it's not just like daytime drama of like, you know, daily soap operas. It goes into the account of even, late night stuff. And it's nothing new. For older individuals that have ever grown up with the Saturday Night Live crowd, they've had regulations on public TV restricting the kind of language and the kind of content that can be shared on regular TV. So after 10 o'clock at night or after 10:30, you could have your late night talk shows using vulgar language, talking all kinds of different topics, or Saturday Night Live that's all, goofy drama, dry humor, as they call it. And those kind of shows draw on more attention for more years than say like sitcoms like Home Improvement. All right, it is TV, it is media, it is Hollywooded up, and I'm going to use that phrase, that description, Hollywooded up, even to professional sports of today. And last night's race and today's announcement for the disqualification for NASCAR is the most obvious thing to anybody that watches it, that NASCAR is just trying to get people's attention from drama, to get their attention, to draw more views and more spectators. In 48 hours, you have a series, a non-NASCAR series of SRX, run by Tony Stewart, former NASCAR, racer, made enough money to create his own teams, and now he's got his own syndicate of the SRX racing series. Saturday night, they have their last televised race for the season, and they span out and show the crowd, and the stadium is sold out. You go to Pocono and you look at the stands, and they're pretty much from halfway up, the entire stands are empty all the way around the track. They start out with a race based off of drama with Ross Chastain and his bump and go with Denny Hamlin in the very first couple of races, and even black flag them and make them go to the back of the track. Okay, so think about that. You have individuals that now have made contact. Denny Hamlin being one of them, rear-ending, okay, Ross, and they kind of swap paint throughout a couple of laps to the point where they block him in order to get him disqualified out of the race, because if he doesn't get back up to the track speed within 3 laps, he's disqualified and taken out of the race. They block him for 2 laps. So literally it's a drag race for Ross on the 3rd lap to get up to track speed, measurement track speed, in order to stay in the race. Meanwhile, the front end of Denny Hamlin's car is somewhat wrecked up. But yeah, he wins the race. And now they disqualify him, saying there's additional material on his front bumper that was illegal. Okay? Now, okay, that's just one coincidence. Now you have the major news with Kyle Busch leaving Joe Gibbs Racing, now quotations, Joe Gibbs Racing, and he's talking to other teams because he's trying to find a ride for next season. Where does he finish last night? In 2nd place. Wow, just coincidence, the timing that he is searching for another team. He wins with Joe Gibbs Racing, and the top 2 teams, top 2 cars in the race are Joe Gibbs Racing. Do you see that the drama over the last couple of weeks have been drawn to Kyle Busch and to Joe Gibbs Racing to create that drama to get more viewers? And when they have the attention of the viewers through all the drama, those are the cars that win. A week ago, or within the last 2 weeks, NASCAR announces unofficially that they are looking at going to electronic vehicles. All right? Many of the NASCAR fans are like, We don't want it. You can't hear the noise. It takes away any of the interest that most of the racing fans go to the races to actually watch. So what they do, they create more drama by putting the focus on Kyle Busch and not having teams. On top of that, one of the things announced or talked about on the Dale Earnhardt Jr. podcast is they talk about the manufacturer's interest in NASCAR between the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series. In the Xfinity Series, they're talking about possibly even dropping the V8s from the Xfinity Series and going to V6s so that it's more applicable to the manufacturers that are producing V6 cars, like Nissan, Mazda, stuff like that. Okay, they're announcing they're changing and bringing in a series for electronic cars, or possibly Cup cars becoming electronic cars. Their Xfinity series are taking the V8s out and making it more manufacturer compliant, I guess if you want to call it, more interesting to bring more manufacturers into it. For anybody that's been watching NASCAR for 20 something years, or keeping track of it a little bit, when Toyota was coming into NASCAR, what was happening? You had your Dodge, Ford, and Chevrolet manufacturers arguing about bringing more attention to the teams and more to the sponsors because of the passing of Dale Earnhardt, that BF Goodrich number 3, championship cars, that lost 50% of NASCAR viewership. 50% of the fans of NASCAR basically stopped watching because there wasn't their championship leader in Dale Earnhardt out there racing every week, because he was the individual that created the drama, the attention for NASCAR. Now, granted, you had all kinds of other different racers, Rusty Wallace, Darrell Waltrip, creating all this drama, fighting between each other, rubbing his racing, talking crap before and after the races. Even their sponsors were similar. So you would have, when it was the Winston series, you had multiple beer manufacturers, and people could then cheer on their favorite beer, whether it be Coors, Miller, or Budweiser. It was teams like Rainbow Boys that kind of changed things up, and they went with a paint manufacturer, DuPont. How many other paint manufacturer sponsors were on race cars at those times? Okay, it singled him out to be different from the others. But then you have Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards getting into it and competing back and forth. What kind of sponsors do you still see on the cars? You still see Lowe's, you still see Paul Menards sponsorships on the cars. For whatever reason, this, just talking about this now, reminded me of the comedy tour with Larry the Cable Guy, when he talks about the kind of sponsors that are race cars. If you can imagine that they were feministic type products, talking about Kotex sliding into the third spot, that kind of comedy. That's the kind of drama that even the sponsors that are on the car are there to draw in attention from spectators, to put people into the seats for $60, $100, or even more dollars per seat to keep those tracks making money. And over the last 2 years, NASCAR playing around with the different tracks that they are including into their programs and adding additional tracks, announcing additional tracks next year. The number one thing they're focusing on is the stands. Not the pits, not the track, but the condition of the stands, because they want to pack those stands full of spectators for money. How do you draw attention to a track, especially when you have 6 competing tracks within less than 200 miles of each other in the Carolinas, How do you draw spectators to every one of those races? You create some kind of a drama that's specific to that track. Well, this track is going to be short, and we're going to limit the cars to this tire. Or we're going to allow the numbers on the cars to be moved forward so they're not directly in the middle of the door, and see what kind of drama that brings up from the fans of, like, oh, should we go back to nostalgia type paint jobs, or go back in history and bring out old different color patterns. If you haven't seen it at all, if you are not aware of what's happening to bring in your attention, to bring in your pay-per-view dollars, to bring in your, as soon as you click on your TV to watch a race, it's being recorded, or you're paying the money to actually go sit in the stands, you don't realize the kind of stuff that's going on behind the scenes of a business of NASCAR to draw in your attention. And any kind of drama with top racers, as in like Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, even bringing in female racers that can't compete whatsoever at any level, they're bringing them in to just draw in that female attention of saying they're not being, sexist. Same thing happened last year with a rope on a door in the pits mimicking a noose, okay? Because we have one of our first black racers saying that he's being singled out because he can't finish in the top 10 basically in the races because he sucks. But he right away comes up with a way of how they're being sexist or not sexist, but being racist, because they're even tying the ropes on the garage doors to look like a noose. Come on, people. That's nothing but drama to draw attention for people that argue against racism to NASCAR. The actual fans that watch any kind of stock car racing, they specifically want the competition. They want to see and have a team to cheer for and have the excitement of seeing Rex getting that enthusiasm to go to the race and be cheering on their champion or cheering on their favorite, and to possibly see them finish good. Or if they don't finish good, they're at least going to see some action on getting Rex, cars flipping up upside down, whatever. That's the reason why they're going. It's the entertainment value. It's the Hollywood definition of motorsports. It's there to draw your attention. No different than going down and seeing a movie at the movie theater. It's there to draw your attention. Look at all the pre-advertising that goes on to any kind of movie since the most recent movies that have come out, like Top Gun. Look at Top Gun. Because of excuses of the C-19 thing, the whole movie was postponed for 2.5 years from its original release date. Building up that momentum of excitement to see the movie, it got to the point where the true fans that wanted to see a movie basically said, I ain't going to watch it now because of all the messing around and all the pre-advertising that's going on. And when it got to the box office, it sold well, but nowhere near what it could have. Same thing is happening in professional motorsports. Tony Stewart knew this when he started the SRX series. Every one of those cars is built by a specific shop. Every one of the engines is built by a specific engine manufacturer. Even to the point where even the fuel injection on the cars is from a sponsored manufacturer that supported Tony Stewart throughout the years on his NASCAR car. Talk about capitalizing on a bad situation. We all know that Tony Stewart was involved with a racing event that killed somebody. The individual was enough to stand up against Tony Stewart, and Tony Stewart hit him, killed him. And oh, they come out, oh yeah, there's drugs in the system. Every single racer has to go through a test before a race. And what is a drug going to do to amplify your focus in a race? Right? It's not like Major League Baseball or football. Steroids ain't going to help you. Okay, so that drama was then drawn to Tony Stewart throughout the years. He obviously got out of NASCAR because people were catching on to his BS in NASCAR. His sponsors dropped out on him because they don't want to be associated with that killing of a racer. He then starts the SRX series. And lo and behold, the very first race, he owns the event. He owns all the advertisement for SRX. He gets in a car and is also driving. He's in the first place thing and he has a rookie driver bump into him, and after the race, because he doesn't finish first place, he walks to that rookie driver's pit stall, grabs him by the shirt and starts chewing his ass. Mimicking the exact same kind of drama that happened with the rookie driver that got out of his car, walked in front of him and got hit and killed. Now, every single race of the XRS series so far this year has had a different winner. Nobody has had a repeat. But lo and behold, the last race of the season, Saturday night, or excuse me, it was the second to last race of the season. Guess who takes first place? Tony Stewart. Okay. It's not about the cars and the competition and the best drivers. It goes by the drivers that draw the most attention to the event for views. We can go over this 1,000 times with how NASCAR has changed the rules, even with the chase, with the Lowell's teams, the DuPont teams, the Kurt and Kyle Bushes. It's all there to draw more attention to people because 3/4 of the way through the season, normally NASCAR viewing, they lose the interest because they already say, we're halfway through the season, our guy's not doing very good, we're going to stop watching, or we know this guy's just going to walk away with the championship because it's just being handed to him. But then you can have the former champion, 4-year champion, that is worrying about getting 2 points in order to even make it into the top 10 for the chase. And 3/4 of the way through the season is drawing attention to people watching. Oh, can he make it? Can he make it? Not only does he make it, but he wins the race. You can't tell me that's not fixed. It's not coincidence. It's obvious what they're doing to draw attention to NASCAR. Even this year with the new cars, the new gen cars for NASCAR, the excuse was that these cars are so much safer than previous cars. The nose cone of the cars are manufactured in one location, so the teams can't create their own front ends. They have to buy them and then just attach them to the car. And during the pre-race, the inspectors just look at that piece, and there's multiple cars in the field that have the exact same manufactured part onto the cars to save them time for inspections. But you're telling me that these two cars that now finished first place last night, first and second place, their car's now inspected, and they got more plastic added onto them or things added onto them, so obvious that they're disqualified. So if it's so obvious, how the hell did they miss it in pre-inspection? See? The attention has been put on Kyle Busch of not having a race team. Don't know where to go. And maybe some drama between him and Joe Gibbs Racing. And lo and behold, Joe Gibbs Racing team cars, top 2 team cars, finish in first and second place. And Kyle Busch being one of them, now we're going to disqualify them. That build up and let down. That build up, drama, and let down. It is no longer entertaining for anybody that's interested in the actual competition of NASCAR or professional sports because it is rigged, it is fixed. Period. If NASCAR actually were to go to the extent of bringing it in, and they say they're going to bring it into electronic vehicles and changing the Xfinity Series to V6 cars, they are going to cut their own throats by doing so to even more fans or people that want to watch NASCAR. The actual people that know how to turn wrenches and maybe that's their living, that's their lifestyle, all about cars. They're seeing this going on, and they're losing interest in watching NASCAR at any level. They're not wearing the T-shirts, the memorabilia to sponsor their favorite team. They could care less. So I know coffee time, getting a little worked up. But all of this going, from professional sports across the board, whether it be Major League Baseball, the NFL, NASCAR, or its sanctioning bodies around it, are bullshit. It is getting ridiculous and disgusting of how far they're willing to go to get fans. Now I'm going to mention another YouTube channel, a racer, in this video, specifically because I want to draw attention to it. I believe I produced another video on one of my channels here last week about the same thing. Landon Huffman, or Hoffman, I don't know how he pronounces the last name, but I believe it's Hoffman. Races in the Virginia, North and South Carolina area. He came out with a video recently talking about the cost, how much it actually costs to race a late model and super late model cars out in that district. And he most recently, I believe 5 days ago, he released the differences between a perimeter chassis and a left-hander style chassis, or a super stock NASCAR chassis compared to a small track, short track type chassis. His video talking about costs, the cost to operate a racing team or a race car in the super late model, combined with all his efforts, was over $100,000, $100,000 for just one season. The payout is nowhere close to that. All right. Speaking of local tracks where I'm at in the upper Midwest, they also had the exact same thing happen over the last 25 years of where the stands started emptying out because about the same time that Dale Earnhardt passed, the cost of living and the interest going into stock car racing lost some backing and some tread. In order to bring in more spectators, they had special events like trailer races, or Eves of Destruction, where there's nothing but cars smashing into each other. Spectator races where they allow people to bring their street cars out on a track and do one lap drag race between two cars. All of that bringing the interest in to the people that actually want to go to the races. Now, they don't have to have an expensive race car. They can bring their street car onto the track. Bragging rights. The amount of cars that were competing in certain classes started dropping down to the point where they only had 3 cars registered for the super stocks. So then they got into it of how do we draw more attention even into getting more cars out on the track. So they come out with a series where it's actually 2 people inside of a car. One's doing the driving, but he has no control over the brakes or the gasoline. The passenger is the one that controls the brakes and the gasoline. So the driver, the only thing he's doing is doing the steering wheel. And okay, so they do that to bring in more spectators, more race teams, figuring they can do it for a couple $100 or even $1,000 just to grab a car at the junkyard that runs, throw in just the minimum amount of security things, and throw the competition in there of seeing which pair of car controllers, can go out and compete with 10 cars, and you know there's going to be some contact being made in those kind of races. Anything the tracks can do to draw attention to get more people in the stands means more money for them. Okay, they have to do that as part of the business because the insurances are going up, the entry fees for the racers are going up, the cost of tires are going up. A tire like this that used to be $60 is close to $200 now. The cost of fuel to even get there. But the payout for the racers is going down, down, and down, down compared to what it actually costs overhead to race. But the tracks aren't going to take the loss. They're going to recuperate their profits in any way they possibly can. So instead of making it to where you could take a stock car with minor things, taking the glass out, taking out the fuel injection or anything like that, making it to where the guys have to go to the junkyard and get parts in order to be competitive. No performance modifications, restricting it to a 2-barrel carburetor or a carburetor plate, restrictor plate type racing. The tracks have gone so far to change things so that the teams with a lot of money are the only ones that are competitive. Now you have teams that show up with 2 or 3 cars, double stack trucks, or trailers, toolboxes, multiple toolboxes they roll out there, $50,000 worth of tools in each box, and sponsors written all over the sides of the trailer, and creating drama between all the racers. The fans are getting screwed out of their entertainment because they're actually seeing stuff that's fixed. Now, even at our local track, one of the things that they'll get they'll have one large, like, fuzzy dice, okay? And before the race, or however they finish in, like, the heat, or not the heat, but the initial race, they then get to roll that dice, and that's their starting position amongst the group. They're not taking the fastest cars and making them start at the back so that the entire field is more equal. They're taking a chance of rolling a dice of where they get to start. So if they roll anything better than a 6, okay, say there's 6 cars, and they're the last one because they took the fastest lap or whatever, they now get to roll that dice and start forward from where they actually would have been in the first place. Those guys aren't going to argue about it, but the rest of the 5 cars on the team should be arguing about it because they get to start closer to the front. So what do they do to make it more cognitive for that racer to finish the race? They add on or tack on 10 additional races because they have a better chance of getting through traffic to finish out the race from last to first place. It's those teams that can afford brand new tires every single race, or have equipment that's professionally tuned, or engines that are professionally packaged together, trying to compete against a guy that is doing it all himself in his garage, in his spare time, works another full-time job. Racing is not his career or his living. And he's going to give it against teams that actually have excessive money, and their race cars are nothing but just a hobby, just a little piddly bit amount of money. Now going back to Landon Hoffman. This individual owns these cars, but in the videos you can tell he doesn't know the mechanics of them. So he's the driver, purchases the cars but he doesn't actually know the mechanics of the car. Even in the latest video, he talks about, I don't know how the electronics work, and I leave that up to somebody else. That's his team. In order for NASCAR to go back to its roots of interest of the actual automobile enthusiast, to bring back the individuals that actually made NASCAR what it is today, they need to go back to owner operators, meaning that there is no multiple car teams. Each car, the driver of that car has got to be the person that actually builds the dang car. The mechanic that actually builds a car is the driver. Simple as that. And the rules and restrictions that you have on it are basically, you have to start out with this part, and the modifications that you do to it are the difference between first or second, being in the lead or not. But everybody has to start out with the same part. Everybody has to start out with the same restrictions. But what you do with it after that, that's what makes you a champion over a standard racer. That brings back the competition of the knowledge of the mechanic driver being able to get into the car and take his piece of equipment that he built and doing the best he possibly can with the equipment that he made. So it's not only the car quality or the driver quality, it's a combination of the two amongst all the other cars on the field to see which one wins. Now, as I said that, I got reminded of another thing. Speaking of Hollywooding things up to draw attention, Hollywood just happens to be another Tom Cruise movie. Well, if we go back to the Days of Thunder, also Sylvester Stallone movie, Driven, about Formula One cars. If you haven't seen that movie, Driven, go ahead and rent it or find it, watch it online, whatever, because you'll see exactly what I'm talking about as far as the drama that's happening amongst the drivers. That movie is so extreme with having racers fighting over, a pit girl, to the point where they steal cars at a showing and drive them through the streets of New York or London, whatever like that. And lo and behold, they can still race. Those drivers aren't black flag or disqualified or anything like that. It's the drama drawing attention to Formula One. They'll show you the essence behind the teams. That it's not the drivers that actually are capable of racing or the cars that are capable of being a championship car. It's about who draws in the most attention from the fans in the stands to get that sanctioning body more money. That movie is 20 years old. Days of Thunder is almost 30 years old. That has carried over to today, and within the last 48 hours, the crap that's going on within NASCAR with Kyle Busch, Joe Gibbs Racing, and disqualifying first and second place, it's a joke. It's a plea. It's an extreme plea for attention by NASCAR to get people interested back in and watching NASCAR because they're losing money. NASCAR took such a big hit with losing fans with the passing of Dale Earnhardt. And then within the last 2 years, the amount of drama that went behind about stomping on the American flag or the noose in the garage door pits, to allowing lady drivers in to see where they compete. They're nothing but road speed bumps for the rest of the drivers. We have yet to have one that's worth a damn. Now, I'm not saying I'm sexist here. I'm saying that they purposely find drivers that have the camera physique to draw attention, but they don't have the talent. Not to say there isn't talented drivers out there. But just recently with this Deegan Keegan or whatever gal or whatever that's now racing in SRX, she's only there to draw attention from the female viewers, not because she's any better quality or any better of a driver than the rest of them. Put a wrench in her hand, compare to the other racers, and ask her how the car works. All right. Well, coffee's out. It was time to end this, but I don't know about you guys, but as I get older, I notice these kinds of things. It causes me to be more pessimistic about everything that I watch, and the more evident it is that these things are occurring, and it pisses you off. I don't want to watch a racing series and watch for drama. I don't want to watch it. That's the reason why I don't watch like Survivor or the TV series, New Jersey Shores, or what's another example of like the Kardashians. I don't watch that kind of crap because I'm not interested. I want to see actual competition, the fight for the best, most talented cars, athletes. I want to see the ultimate athletes of the world. I want to see the ultimate, the professionals that do this stuff. Have somebody to look, to emulate or to follow and say, like, okay, this guy's putting in the work. That's what's going to get my view. The crap that NASCAR and professional sports are paying nowadays, I don't watch any of them. I'll honestly go and watch like high school football. Or this week I'm going to watch a AAA baseball game on Thursday night with our local baseball team. These kids that are hopeful to get attention in order to make it into paid professional ball. You can see the enthusiasm, the focus that these guys got because they know that every second of the game somebody's watching their performance. They're fighting and competing to get noticed. It's not about filling the stands. They could care less how many people are there to watch for them because they only care about one scout that might be watching for them. It's more exciting and it's better performance. No kidding. It's better performance from a AAA baseball team than to watch the Major League Baseball teams. It's more interesting to go and see street stockers, pure stock, guys that have less than $10,000 in their car running on the same set of wheels the entire season, going with the cheapest rims that they can possibly find because that's all they can afford because they have a full-time job and working on the car is only saved up to a couple hours during the week, or if they smash up, they have to pull an all-nighter to fix their car in order to race the following weekend. That's the kind of racing that draws attention. Those are the kind of individuals that are dedicated and putting the time and effort in that makes it worthwhile for the spectators to watch. So I know I've duplicated multiple different things I've said before, but hopefully you guys are catching on to this. It's nothing new. Have a good day. Have a good week. We'll catch you later.